Hello everyone, Edain here, and welcome back to the Edain mod, where today we're going to be ranking recruitment settlements, which is quite literally what it means. Every settlement that can recruit units. And with one or two niche recruitment types, because they are important to notice from time to time. So, I'm first going to be ranking them on three different things. Or how often they are built over other settlements. So, for example, would I build this signal fire over a lighthouse or over an ordinary farm? How impactful are they to their faction? So, for example, the lighthouse, it can give you some elite archers. Signal fire can give you a bunch of basic troops with unique abilities, etc., etc. And then, how valuable are their units? So, for example, again, the elite archers or the basic troops, how valuable are they to your faction overall? And I will be rambling for some of the lower tier settlement buildings because I do think there's a good few changes that could be made to some of them to make them more impactful, more necessary. But also I want to know, I'm not rating heroes, so some things that might have a great hero would make it a lot better if I was actually rating heroes. I will mention the heroes, but I'm not rating the heroes on them because for the recruitment buildings that can make heroes, they're a bit skewed in their favour from time to time. So, let's begin. All the way at the bottom, number 14, the Wolf Lair. Not just the worst recruitment building, but probably the worst settlement building in the game, honestly. It's compared to what Angmar can get from their other settlements, you get no resources, you get no passive buffs, you get no tribute cards, all you get are these walls. That is it. And then if you choose to, apparently if you go with showing favours to Khan Doom, you can, oh it says when new summoners, but, oh yeah, that's just a thing of all of them. But yeah, the Deepen Instincts. Wolves and werewolves gain extra armor near settlement structures, and wolves generate faster fallen units near wolf kennels and wolf lairs. Armor persists, blah blah blah. Werewolf Devour ability improves to 100% healing. So let's just talk about the actual building itself and why it is garbage. Other than what I've just said. These dire wolves are garbage. They are also probably one of the worst units in the game. I've tried to give this unit some love in the past, but their health isn't the best. Their damage is atrocious. Their ability, Rabies, just give them more damage but they lose armor, is also very pointless. You have to... There's another upgrade here, Spiked Collars, and also Banner Carriage you can give The Spiked Collars give you more damage, but more damage of next to nothing is still next to nothing. And you have to build in your base to even get the Spiked Collars, and then also the Wolf breeding to get Wolf Riders for your Thrall Masters, which is not a problem in itself, but again, this is about the settlement. And this is where I'm going to start rambling for a long time. This is how I want to improve this. So, if you don't want to listen to me rambling for about 5 minutes, go to the next timestamp, look at number 13. So, I think they should just get rid of this. Get rid of this building. It is pointless. For Angmar, you do not need this useless settlement when you already have 3 much better settlements. With the Hillman Village for extra damage to your Hillman. Orc Camps, more damage to your Orcs, which is also kind of bad. But then the Barrow Whites, they decrease the cost of Barrow Whites, but they all generate what they call tribute cards every few minutes. Meanwhile, recruits direwolves, gives you 2 direwolves to defend the building, costs 250, so it's more than your resource building to start with. But yeah, just get rid of it. Get rid of this building entirely. It is not needed, and instead, make it a power. Make a power that, for one, gets rid of Blight, because I've talked about how I hate this power instinctively on a irrational level. I hate this power. And I imagine many people have a very similar feeling, because all it does is just make life difficult for you to generate resources for your opponents. It's like, why do that? For the AI, it makes no difference. For players, it ticks them off to no end. I don't see any single positive about this power other than being a way to make people hate you. And as for this kennel, I would like to try and change this a bit, but I think the main thing is merge, or get rid of the Blight power, get rid of the Wolf Lair settlement, and instead make a bit of a Gundabad sub faction for this for the faction, where you have, instead of a Blight, you have like a summon Gundabad camp. Because back in the day, before they had Obelisk, they used to have a summon wolf lair, which was literally just a wolf lair that was like a warg lair with 2 wolves surrounding it that you would control, and when it was destroyed, you would get whoever got the money gets money. But since that already exists with Misty Mountains, we don't need a duplicate of that, and it was a kind of a busted power anyway. So instead of Blight and the wolf lair, as I said, a Gundabad camp acts not like the Orc camp, which gives you damage passively for all your orcs. It instead gives you passive regeneration for all orc thralls in the area of effect of the summon. And say like you can only have like 3 of them at once, because you know otherwise you're gonna spam them everywhere, and you can only do that with some of the factions. But then on top of that, it starts off just pretty much just having a small niche effect as a level 1 power. But then you start getting some other powers, like for example the Black Guard Officers, which is all about getting the new Orcs of Mount Graham, and then also just boosting all your thralls. After you get this power, you can say there's an extra passive on top of this power, saying all Gundabad camps now have defenses and can now make thrall masters, for example. Saying they've given enough effort to Gundabad to then make them more come into the fold, so now they can actually get more things. And then maybe even make some passives that say like all Gundabad orcs get more damage for a periodic time while around this, like a heroic statue. Which, to be fair, you could just use. This faction doesn't currently have a heroic statue, so you could make a heroic statue effect. And then finally, with Summon Hill Trolls, have another mini passive come in, because already this power is kind of a you get some trolls and Rogash. Big deal. Rogash used to be a permanent hero, used to be amazing. I miss him, but I understand why they got rid of him as a permanent hero. So instead, make it so you can now summon trolls from the Gundabad camps as well, if you have the summon troll power. So it would be, you would have the Gundabad camp here, the hill trolls here, having a nice little passive summoning hill trolls. Because, you know, even though they're a temporary summon, having a permanent summon of hill trolls will be cool as well. Since there's permanent snow trolls through Witch King's favor of the Witch King with the One Ring going to monsters, that's another cool effect. But then also the Black Guard Officers giving a more militaristic improvement to this already little camp. It's just a lot of little things that, if you brought them all together, could make what used to be just kind of a garbage settlement feel more like a really well done thing. And because the wolves are technically from Gundabad mostly, because, you know, Gundabad wolf riders, you can then maybe also have a Warg Rider unit. Gundabad Warg Riders have it as a ranged cavalry unit. Give them some spears to throw. Make it a very interesting unit. And this is all just me talking about stuff that I would want preferably over what we already have with this. It's probably not going to happen. It's just me praying that something like this could happen, because let's be real, this is never used by anyone. Not me, not you, not even the AI wants this building. It is garbage. You have 3 choices that are actually impactful, and then this useless, just ugh. No, take it away. Take it away. At number 13, we have the Pony Camp, which, yes, I love this little thing. Yes, it technically doesn't recruit any units, but it does summon ponies, which then merge with any of your elite dwarf troops to then give you Khazad-dûm veterans. It is actually something you would consider building over an ordinary settlement at some point during the game. Not in the early game, mind you, because of the fact you need to have your Archon Guard, or Iron Breakers, or Unburnt, and to do that you need a Forge, which is, what, 1,000 now? 4,900. Oh no, that might be 1,000. I got the lumber mill discounts. Elite equipment, that's another 750. You need a barracks, that's 300. You're always going to have a barracks anyway, but whatever. I want to say it. Arcane Guard for another 500, for example. And then only every 3 minutes do you then get a pack of ponies to then send out with those Khazad-dûm vets, and then you got a Khazad-dûm vet unit, which you can then either send back into the forge to then give all your heroes mithril mail, which is a very expensive run around just to get this one thing, when instead you could be getting, instead of all that, some more heroes. For example, from here you can actually get Gimli for the price of all that mithril mail you want to get for all those things and everything you need to do for it. So yeah, there's the ponies. You merge them with your unit, and then they go off to get your Khazad-dûm vets. Which, to be fair, Khazad-dûm vets are great. They are worth getting. But they're not that... Are they worth getting that much? And honestly, no. They're not that valuable to your faction. Just make your heroes a little bit stronger. When instead you could just be spamming your basic or elite troops with all your heroes. Give them all those leadership buffs. That is better than spending all that time getting Khazad-dûm veterans. You could just be getting more resource buildings over this pony camp. Now, in the middle to late game, that is when you might want to consider getting some Khazad-dûm veterans. Not for the mithril mail, but just for the fact that they can be very selective damage types. Good against killing heroes if you've not been able to take out their enemy heroes recently. If their enemy is getting all heavy armored troops, you can get armor piercing with Morning Stars. You just want to destroy buildings, you're not playing Erebor, you can equip the hammers. Or just want basic damage, get the axes, and then again, I'll give them more armor or another axe for more damage. But yeah, as impactful as they can be for the faction, as I said, they're not that impactful. They can do something, but at the same time, is it worth all the hassle? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And again, most of the time it's in the late game, but the fact is this building itself is so weak. One thing I would like to see changed about this is call it the Khazad-dûm Expedition. Make it look a little fancier. Maybe give us some guards as well to protect this building that costs the same as a ordinary settlement at level 3. You know, those level 3 buildings that can just give you lots and lots of money. 36 gold per 36 resources per block of wood, on top of getting you discounts, instead of just a every 3 minutes you get some pack horses, and then you can get a 500 resource troop, get that mixed up as well, and then you've got some Khazad-dûm veterans. It's honestly, it takes too long to get your money back from everything you're spending on all of this. But yeah, give this summon a bit more love. Give it something more to keep this building itself protected and the ponies safe. And it could easily go up a few levels. But as it stands, to be fair, my last 3 games I played with the Dwarves, I don't think I made this. I just didn't need it. Iron Hills have Ram Riders and really good, strong heroes. Erebor just has, again, really strong heroes and a lot of damage. They do not need a smaller entity, high damage dealing unit. They don't. They can use the mithril mail, yes. The damage, not so much. And then Ered Luin just is probably the faction you would say the most. Yes, they could use mithril mail because you've got all these heroes. But at the same time, again, you'd rather spend all your money getting your heroes rather than getting the mithril mail and then saying, I'm now going to get all my heroes. Because now your heroes are just all level 1, not done much compared to getting them earlier, making more value out of them earlier. I rest my case. Sorry, Pony Camp, you're near the bottom for me. At number 12, we have the Linden Watch Tower. And it hurts me to put this building so low on the list because of how majestic it got made very recently. But, as I said before, we're not accounting for heroes because I have a very big bias against some of the heroes, like, for example, Edain is one of my favourite and largest heroes. There's some of the coolest abilities of the faction. It's like just units travel across the map, damage, and all buildings are protected. But without Edain, this building doesn't do much. And as I said before how we're ranking this, I personally do not choose to build this over other buildings like, you know, resource buildings, because one, enlargers is very, very, very resource reliant. So having a 500 resource building that can very easily just get knocked down by a bit of siege, what's the point of that? Other than to get the hero that I build this building for in my games. But also then we've got the Linden Guardians themselves. Yes, at level 10, Edain can make it so these units can be instantly recruited. But they are each 120 command points, 1,300 resources. I'm only going off enlargers here, not the Arnold version, because Arnold does get a discount on them with Arvidui. But again, just going over what the Linden Guardians are like at base. At level 1, they make it so all nearby archers get bonus attack speed, and all units have a resistance to arrow damage, for all basic infantry in their radius. However, they currently cannot swap between their swords and their bows, because with enlargers you need the military studies to even do that. So you need to be investing into your economy, and it's not even just the basic military studies. The advanced military studies are what are needed to get these going. For both. Yes, you get more armor against melee attacks when you're in sword mode. But, you know, that's mainly necessary because, you know, the armor type changes from bowman to swordman. So it's not exactly like you're getting a massive amount of protection. You're just getting what every other unit has. But also, it's a fact that their arrows aren't even special. They're just basic arrows. Considering this is an elf faction, you've got another heroic archer unit for Lothlorien that has silverthorn arrows. Why couldn't these get goldthorn arrows? Or even just a white shining arrow? That would have been really cool. And then also, you've got to take into account, we already have a better archer unit in this faction. And it's the enlargers archers. They get goldthorn arrows, gold tip arrows, and then Eregion arrows, which gives attack speed to all infantry that are just in their area. Like, yes, this is a nice niche support unit that you might get one of, but we have another unit that's the exact same command point cost, costs less at base, and if you have full cost reduction on their upgrades, can cost less. And also, if you have the training of the firstborn, which I'm actually going to check now, because I don't want to say it is when it isn't. I'm going to double check to see if it costs more or less to let's get enlargers archers at full upgrades using training of the firstborn. Let's see. Archers, 1,000 resources to get a fully upgraded unit of elves that are already have already have Eregion arrows, already have heavy armor, and are already level 2 with an ability that prevents us that they can't be knocked down or trampled, but lose some of their attack range. Meanwhile, we've got these elves here that can just get knocked down by a warg and will be eternally wounded by the Endeavor. Yeah, I'm sorry. I love these elves. Personally, I really love them. But then, I just don't see it. I don't see this unit being better than, you know, the other counterparts of the faction. And even the Rangers of Arnor are better than this unit. Paired together, they're amazing. But on their own, they're also just perfectly fine. They don't need this unit to give them a little bit of extra attack speed when they're already just good. At number 11, we have the Lighthouse, which it's a resource building, which is this one saving grace, honestly, because these sailors, they're meant to be your Aphelion Rangers for the faction. And yes, they do stealth when near trees. But this building itself, I would not build it over an ordinary farm for 3 big reasons. 1, these sailors are basically, again, as I've already said, are your Aphelion Rangers. But just like with Aphelion Rangers, you can't get your fire arrow upgrades from this building. You need to build the archery range in your base. And this is Belfalas we're talking about, where you might not even want to get an archery range, because you can get fire arrows a different way, a much simpler way, which they've made simpler more recently. And then there's also the fact that before you can even get these units, You need to have the hero Kirion, which does come from the lighthouse. But then it needs to be level 3 before you can even get these units. And then it's only targeting one building. And this power is on a cooldown. It's not just instantly, oh, passive. By the way, now all of our lighthouses can make sailors. No. You've got to keep this building alive to even make sailors. And if that building gets knocked down, you've got to wait till that power comes back, get the lighthouse built back up again, and then get the sailor and composite bow upgrades. Unlike with the Ranger Tank counterpart, which is just get level 3, level 3 settlers tools, and then you can have composite bows and rangers with no extra stipulations. This can just be changed to make a good power. I don't know, but anything is better than that. But then also the fact that this discount reduced the cost of fishing boats by up to 50%. And may I remind you, Belfast maps are meant to be designed so that you can always build ships. There's at least one Belfast map I know of. You cannot build ships. So what is the point of this upgrade if you can't even use on every map this faction is in? I'm just angry at that fact. I think it's Lynn here, the newer map Lynn here. They built it without any ports. So this is not anywhere near as valuable as a farm, which can decrease the cost of your cavalry. Which, by the way, again, Belfast, where Dol Amroth, that is your staple, is cavalry. You can check the stables for Belfast. Actually gives you your, where are they? There we go. Can actually give you your heroic troop. You don't have to get the outpost to do that. You just need a stable. So that's a bigger reason to build a stables in your base over these guys. Over these little guys. And also, this building doesn't have any natural defenses. It doesn't even have a way of defending itself. There's literally nothing protecting this thing here. And if I look at Kirion, his main thing is actually buffing fiefdom troops. Not the rangers, the fiefdoms themselves. So, yeah. The unit's good, don't get me wrong. The unit's still good. But is it good enough to waste all that time and effort getting this hero, getting the level ups, getting the building to stay alive, and then also just getting angry at the fact that you can't even build fishing boats on some maps? This map you can. This map we definitely can if I had that port. But yeah, this is just something that I think the Edain team can do a little bit of mixing around with and make it even better. I'm sure there's a way. I just don't know where it is. At number 10, we have the Ranger Tents. And not just for Gondor, but for Arnor as well. I'm going to be talking about the Arnor version a little bit, because they have a bit more stuff going on. So for the Arnor Tents, you do get the choice to get Aronoth instead of just from a archery range in the base, which is what they did to Faramir. They made it so you can have it made from an archery range or a stables, but not from a Ranger Tents. And as I already said about with the lighthouses, at level 2 Ranger Tents you can get composite bows, and then you can get Dunedain Rangers from there. But also, they have a valuable discount, which doesn't really show on here, but it would show on the other side, is that it gives a discount to composite bows if you have enough of them. And I believe on this map, I currently only have one. So even though it says 10% discount, it should say 0. But yeah, with the more Ranger Tents, you can get composite bow discounts. And also, unlike with the Lighthouse, you actually have some Dunedain or Ithilien Rangers just patrolling the camp that can then attack any onset attackers. They also do generate resources, so it is a resource building. So it's not like it's any worse than the Lighthouse, it's just better than the Lighthouse in nearly every way. Again, only difference being, instead of having a Kirion, which then gives you the option to then upgrade the Lighthouse to get your elite archers, you can just get the elite archers by just upgrading your economy. Which, who wouldn't do that? And then Arnor just has the extra added bonus of being able to get Aronoth. But also, one thing to note about the Dunedain Rangers is, if you don't have a level 5 Carthian or a Ranger chieftain of the Dunedain Aronoth, you don't have an ability with these Arnor Rangers. With the Aphelion Rangers, you always have Unexpected Salvo, the ability where you just shoot something really hard for a bunch of damage. And then Composite Bows makes that damage even more powerful. But if you have the Aronoth as a Dunedain chieftain, you can get the Faithful of Aronoth, which we showed off in the Mass Slaying video, where they get the Harassing Fire, which is their old arrow volley ability. You know, this one. This one here, where they just all can do this, but for a little bit of damage at a time. But obviously, having like 5 units of Aronoth's Faithful all doing that at once is going to kill most basic and elite troops. So yeah, good units, good overall, but honestly, still, for Gondor, I would say it's more important to get this over a over a farm in the beginning when you don't have Grand Harvest. But because Grand Harvest exists, if you're making this for a resource building only, you're better off building a farm. Even if you're not making cavalry, you're still better off. But if you're actually making Dunedain Rangers or Arnor Rangers, whatever you want to call them, Rangers of any kind, I still think it's better to, well, especially for Gondor and Arnor, because you can actually get them from a archery range in your base. You don't need a tent for them anymore. You just can get them from here. And from here you get fire arrows, which is something that these rangers are desperately lacking if they do not have an archery range. So again, it's a mix-up. Do you want some rangers? You're probably going to want them when you're about to assault the enemy base, and then just give them all fire arrows, because you know that means they're less likely to die to cavalry, where other factions will have to get their archers from their base and can possibly get them ambushed if they're not taking care of them. So it is a toss-up. I personally have not really touched rangers for a long time. I know people that have been playing in like PvP scenarios that make Aphelion Rangers and immediately should regret it because they just die immediately. They're a good hero, they're a good elite unit, but they're not something that should just be always invested into because of the fact they are so damn expensive. And you have an archer unit for both of these factions, both Gondor and Arnor, that are cheaper and honestly can be better if you play your cards right. At number 9, we have the Goblin Lair. And yes, you make pitiful units from these buildings. But you know what? When they're cheaper than chips, and you can discount that price by up to 30%, yes, you're just saving a few pennies every here and there. But when you have like 5 of them, all making goblins at the same time, both warriors and archers, mind you, because you can get both of them, it adds up really quickly. The speed at which they recruit is not to be scoffed at for both soldiers and archers, and they can get upgrades. One of the few units that actually get upgrades, which makes them turn from just absolute garbage to better than Gondor soldiers at base tier. They also have the ability to strengthen numbers, which means the more of these basic goblins you have, only these basic goblins have this ability, by the way. The more, as long as you have 50 of them together, which is not hard to do, because you can see every unit has, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 troops. 5 units of them is enough to, no, 4 units is enough to get this upgrade. Yes, they die easily. They have only 100 health each. But since they can get fire arrows for these archers, they can do some pretty nasty damage just on their own. And again, you will be building a lot of these. Granted, as you start getting to the later periods of the game, you should gravitate out of these goblins because your other goblins, the Moria goblins, are much better. Because they have the poison blade, they can still get the upgrades at the exact same cost. They don't have the strength in numbers ability, so they don't get the extra damage for spamming. But they are also just better in every single way. When you take out... But yeah, let's just double check their health when they're both at level 2. Make sure I'm not over-exaggerating the... Well, show I'm not over-exaggerating the difference in their abilities. So, 117 health. 146 health. That might not seem like a lot against a elite faction like, for example, Imladris, but against another like spam faction, Mordor or Isengard early game, that little health difference, you're actually going to want to build these basic goblins from here. You will feel the difference if you go for these goblins over these goblins in a pinch. Obviously, still spam these goblins out early. They're cheap enough that it's worth it to just expand your empire. But at some point, you just have to call it quits with these. You've got two other settlements that are actually better. And not in the order I imagine you are thinking I will put them in. At number 8, we have the Beorning Homestead, which I never really have been able to use appropriately. I always just get Grimbeorn and call it a day. But taking Grimbeorn out of the equation, Beornings are still really good. Their health and damage is enough to slice open elite troops like, for example, Gondor's Fountain Guard. But they can also, if they're not against pikemen, for example, can just turn into bears, do a bunch of just running around to do some insane damage. We've seen how insane that damage is when we did the mass slaying video again when I was talking about Grimbeorn. But also, something I've never noticed about the honey ability is you can turn it off, obviously, to stop making resources. But the fact is, if you have some damaged Beornings, you turn the honey on, these Beornings are going to be healing. Let's see if it's obvious. Okay, now that is a lot of health. You know what? One Lothlorien video, I might have to use some Beornings. I might just have to, because I've been sleeping on this unit for too long. Granted, against AI, it's not easy to abuse the bear charging against like archers. They're also like really slow, so any cavalry will stop them in their tracks. But I mean, these are still pretty hefty boys. They are good units. But their main weak point is the fact that they are single entities, and if one dies, that's a whole 500 resources gone. It could cost less, for example, if I had a bunch of sanctuaries, which I think I do. I do not. Okay, so they've been reduced to 450. So they're not no longer 500, they're 450. But that doesn't really change anything in my opinion. That 50 resources is still not going to feel like enough of a change if these guys are suddenly die. Not saying they're bad. Not saying they're bad. I'm just saying as archers in their human form and pikemen in their bear form, if either of those things exist, they're not going to live for long. And against like other Lothlorien factions, if you've got upgraded arrows, this is not going to live. It's a sad state of affairs. But put them against any like non-pikemen or archers, they will do good work. And the honey's always good. I just always use Grimbeorn though, because I never seem to find a chance to want to make them and actually have them keep running back and forth. They're just not fast enough, I think. If they can move, if they can move a little bit faster, maybe I give them a bit more appreciation. So you know, if anyone wants to join me in a Lothlorien Misty Mountains game, get those drums in there. That would be fun. Back to Misty Mountains again. At number 7, we have the Troll Lair. Now, these trolls, yes, you can get other trolls for your faction through your main base, like with the Moria goblins and the Goblin Lair. But these trolls are actually better than they would look like at first glance if you find a tree with them. Just pick it up and whack it on them. They may not be as tough as some of their more husky troll cousins from the base here. But if you get several troll lairs together, you can decrease the cost of these trolls in particular by up to 30%. Now I will note that this discount does get overwritten if you have a bunch of these slave holes with Goblin Town. At least that's what it was like when I first had them up. But you can see here, this troll here at level 2, 3,900 health. These trolls, 3,500 health. So again, it's another situation of settlement troops aren't as strong as the main base troop, but the main base troops are harder to get because you've only got a very, very, very limited amount. So it's you can get a nice mix of both. You can also get the troll brothers from here, which I really do like. But again, not talking about them. You can also have 2 trolls protecting this base. It's probably one of the most protected built settlements in the game, is to have 2 trolls just patrolling this lair. It's really a cool thing. But it does take a lot to get that to level 3. It's all periodical. So if we go back to here now, okay, the discount hasn't actually faded. So if you build the stone troll layers first, and get that 30% discount, you're good. But if you get the slave holes first and then get the troll layers, the discount doesn't take into effect, so you would have to get the whole 30% from here. But for example, with that 10% there, that does go onto those cave trolls there. And if we look at the cave troll again, they cannot pick up trees. So these guys do have one advantage in the fact that they can do some pretty good mass slaying with those trees. Like with what Tom can do with his currently invisible pocket knife. Because his whole thing is that he does larger AoE attacks. Just does less damage with them. While these trolls kind of have a similar thing, but you know, just giant tree on a 480 resource cost. Almost the same price as a bay awning. Just whack everything in a big AoE down around them. And obviously you can get them level 2 instantly if you get the monster lair to level 3 and then get the improved training. So all your monsters come out level 2. So all in all, very, very good. Very, very handy. But not something necessary for your faction, because you already have lots of ways of doing mass slaying as the goblins. One of which we've still not talked about yet, and won't be talking about for a little bit. And number 6, we have the Rohan Farm. Some people might think this deserves to be near the very top of the list because of how important peasants are for your early game and even into your late game, since they're a unit that can go from basically goblin tier to then get drafted. They become a slightly higher tier with some more health and draft. You can see there their health went up dramatically by up to 70 health points, I think, which is now a third of their health pool. But the thing is, the ability to draft peasants is in short supply. And especially in the early game, you're probably going to want to be drafting in your base, on the flour mills, instead of on Hobbit farm, on Hobbit farms, on your farms. And honestly, the only difference between the two is the fact you get the hay carts from your settlement farms, which, let's be real, if you're building these farms for the hay carts, get out of my face. Get out of my face. Get out of here. That is not why you build that farm. I personally have been, in recent games anyway, been ignoring the settlement Rohan farms. I've just been building flour mills in my base, building peasants from there, and instead of the stud farms in the base, I will build stud farms outside the base. Because if I have at least some control over the settlements, I will then start being able to spam cavalry, and even if I didn't, I would just get some cavalry anyway, not a large troop. Because the discount isn't that big. Whereas with the stud farms, and not stud farms, flour mills and Rohan farms, draft has a secondary little benefit that with everything you drafted, you get a discount to your banner carriers by 5%. That may not seem like much, but if we kept that going onto, say, 20 Rohan farms, I'm not actually going to do that, but for example, if I did do that, that discount will just keep going up and up and up and up and up. I don't know if it actually has a limit. I hope it doesn't, because then you can see 3 banner carriers, but you get what I mean. That's the draft ability, like what I said with the Kyrion and the lighthouses. It's something that can very easily be taken away if you do not prepare for it. And Siege is something you cannot prepare for. It's going to happen. Yes, you can try and take measures to prevent it. But the AI, for example, are relentless. They are ruthless, and they will always find a way to make siege and ruin your day by making all your perfectly laid out plans collapse around you. They will flip the table and say, stop me if you dare. And I often do. Which is why, as I said, farm mill should be in the base, and stud farm should be outside the base, because the discount for Rohan isn't honestly that important. They have stupid economy, stupid good. But also, peasants take a long time to recruit. The longest out of any troops in the game are 60 seconds. That's why you need a lot of them. And again, that's why you should build them in your base, because then they are safe, and then you can focus all your efforts in your base, or outside of your base, whichever one you manage to prioritize first. I typically go with inside the base, because there it is safer. Going big on number 5, we have the Entmoot. Definitely one of the most essential buildings for Lothlorien. May not be the most built, but is essential on maps where you've got to just play on a castle start. They've blocked themselves in, and you've got to find a way of knocking them doors down. You need the Ents. It is one of those things that are going to be essential, no matter what you do. You don't always need to get Treebeard and Quick Beam, mind you. You can also just go the Ash Ent route. But obviously, if you want the long-range Ents that do lots of damage from afar, you are going to want to get Treebeard, so then you can get the Ash Ents. Or Birch Ents. Or whatever the hell they're called. No, I think they're called Ents, right? Yeah, these are the Ash Ents, the little ones. They're the Ash Ents. And then you got the Ents, which can be a bunch of different named Ents just by what tree they're made of. So there's the Birch Ent and the Spruce Ent. Yeah, you can see Quick Beam and Treebeard are like a main fixture of the Entmoot, which again is why I said at the beginning, we're not ranking this on the heroes, because that would be too much in the favour of something like the Entmoot that has heroes against 2 of the settlements that are above them that don't have heroes. Because let's face it, these 2 heroes do make these Ents a lot more tolerable to get. Not only can you then get your long range Ents, you can get them faster thanks to the Entmoot ability of Quick Beam. That also includes the actual getting of Treebeard as well. And yeah, the Ents themselves are great. The Ash Ents have a nice little stomp like that of the Mountain Giants, and also act as battering rams for Lothlorien. And then the Birch Ents, like Mountain Giants, can choose to just smack things around, or they can pick up a stone and just shoot things from a catapult's throw away, which does make them really impactful. Again, you need siege on some maps. Not every map, mind you, which is why they're on the bottom of the top 5. But always give some credit where credit is due. Ents have always been important in this game. Ents will always be important in this game. And I'm glad they're a part of Lothlorien, because at least Lothlorien doesn't have to make some things made out of trees. They can instead just have living trees. At number 4, we have the underdogs, the Warg Lair. Now, contrary to the Wolf Lair, which I still will claim to the ends of the earth is the garbage tier settlement, this settlement is amazing. Not only does it give you a lot of wargs to defend it, which, by the way, don't just walk up to the enemy unit and give them a quick nibble on the leg. These guys will trample your ass into the ground and then chew on your remains like they did to Hammer in the movies. Like, come on. These wargs are insane. They're just mini warg riders from Isengard. Instead of having to build a building for them, you can just get a settlement building. Yes, they cost a little bit more than the average, but to be fair, having a building that can just slowly level up on its own discounts the unit by up to 30%, by the way. Remind me, what do the wolves not do? Give discounts. Well, there you go. There's some discounts for wargs up to 30%, meaning they can cost down from 300 to 210, less than a wolf pack. And their ability is to just have more damage and speed. Speed is so crucial in this game. And then you can also get a pack alpha, which is also way cheaper of an upgrade than it is for the wolf pack. I'm just really trying to disrespect the wolves from Angmar because let's face it, this is just the better version in every single way. And I've already said, they do trample. These wolves, with their howl, off screen, is with Drums of the Mountains, is one of the most deceptively fast units. Look at this! Look at that! If you keep these off screen for a second, put them drums down, throw off that howl, you can whip off an entire army of Aphelion Rangers, Dunedain Rangers, Imlargus Rangers, Galathrim. Maybe not Galathrim, but you get what I mean. Get a few of these pack wolves in here, and they can just do work against any basic archers. Snap, gone. Infantry, snap, gone. Pikemen, you don't go to pikemen, but you get my point. Anything that's not a spear is going to die to these things in the early game. They are stupidly good. Not busted in the slightest. They actually have a good reason to not be built straight away because the fact the building costs 500. Not 450, mind you, I think, because of my discounts I've currently got from the mines. Yeah, well, currently 10% off. But yeah, 500 resources for a building is a bit steep, but the payoff, oh, with Misty Mountains, if you can get a good economy rolling, build this lair. If you don't get from the lottery, from Pact of Hatred, the Warg lair, build a Warg lair. Because my god, these Wargs are insanely good. They've given me major grief when I'm playing as Misty Mountains. I can't use them well. I've just told you how to use them well. I've seen people use them really well, other than myself. It's worth it. It's worth investing your time and money into just buying these wolves. It's much easier than going for elite Gundabad Warg Riders. So much easier. Eventually you'll want to get into them, but until the late game, you have a cheap cavalry alternative to just snipe enemy archers. And, oh, I've never hated making archers more than I have against Misty Mountains. But number 3, probably the most essential settlement building of the game, the Kirith Ungol Barracks. And it's essential for only really one reason. Sauron. One of Sauron's most important things is the expansion of power. And to get an extension of power, to get him a level up, all you need to do is build this building, which costs, I believe, 600. Let's just make a quick summon and find out. 600 resources, get a Kirith Ungol Barracks. Spend another 510, or whatever it actually is, or 500 to get, to spend 500, get a Black Orc Warrior of Kirith Ungol. You know, your elite unit that does bonus damage to anything with heavy armor. And you've now given Sauron one of 2 levels that he needs to then use, for example, Influence of Sauron. So then you can get your other elite unit, the Black Orc Archers, which weakens all enemies that they attack. And you can also now get from straight away, because they changed things around a bit, you can also get back the Halberdiers of Kirith Ungol, which do slash and specialist damage, meaning they're good against infantry and cavalry. And they can also get a porcupine formation if you really want to say, yeah, we did this. But yeah, these 3 units are probably some of the most essential elite units in the game. You can get them really early. With Mordor, you can actually invest in this very early and see big payoff because of things like, you know, Banners of the Red Eye, replenish troops, getting them all level 2. Also, because your base orcs cost nothing, you need something to sink your money into to get a military advantage. So, this is the military advantage. Just get 9 troops, because you are limited by how many of them you can get. However, another thing to note, if you check that command point score, and I'm just going to kill all these right now. Notice how that score did not move. Those orcs were all free of upkeep. they cost no command points to make all of those orcs and uruks. So yes, these units are always worth getting. This barracks is always worth getting. How impactful is it for the faction? It gives Sauron 1 level. That is not to be understated. Getting 1 level early on is 1 step away from getting yourself even stronger every few minutes. It is insane what you can do with the barracks of Cirith Ungol. And I always find myself building this, not as my first building, not as my second building, because I want economy first. But I will always build this building somewhere. And you better believe I will be making these units and making sure they are always on the field. In second place, we have the Signal Fire of Gondor. My god, it was this close to them getting the first place. But with the recent patch and the unfortunate changing of Baragon no longer being... I'm kidding. It's not just because of that this didn't get number 1. But yes, Baragon can no longer glitch the system and make it so you can get like 10 Errand Riders in a few seconds. Although I will say, if you have Elrond or King version, well, Heir to the Throne version Aranarth, and they have used their restoration ability, you can just get instant Errand Riders. You know, for that one game you get. No, I'm kidding, because that only works on heroes. This restoration that the cheat mode guy gets is unique. But yeah, 4 different units you can get from the Signal Fire. A Spearman unit that specialises in preventing monsters from being able to trample you. Which is actually counterintuitive because you want them to trample you so they don't just hit you really hard with, a stick, which was talked about before. But then you've got, the best unit of the fiefdoms. The Cutting Blades, Pinnithgellan Soldiers, which just do bonus damage to all things that don't have heavy armour upgrades. The Lasarnak Axemen, let's just do bonus damage against all structures by making them lose their armour. And then the Blackroot Vale Archers that have a special formation that prevents damage from ranged attacks, but reduces their movement speed a little bit. But seeing that just gives them, an extra 20% damage and armour if you have the middle power, that's just a worthy investment to make them better than your Gondor Archers in nearly every respect. You can get them... Instead of spending resources like you do for most recruits, these you just need to spend time on. Every 75 seconds you will get a little something that will then allow you to soon make more troops. And for example, your main 2 Lasarnak Axemen, Pinnithgellan Swordsmen, you can get them every 150 seconds. You can then get the aid from Pelagia for free, which is a total of 225 seconds. And then the Blackroot Vale Archers also 225 seconds. But you can also get all of them all at once, giving them all banner carriers, so level 2 instantly. For waiting for 8 of them, which is 600 seconds. So 10 minutes you can get 4 troops for free with full upgrade. Well, not full upgrades, with banner carriers. But this is where the kicker comes in. You have a power that exists in this game that in total is 7 command points. They reduce this by 2 assistance in times of need. You now get upgrades, forged blades, heavy armor, and fire arrows for all of your fiefdom troops, just because you use the power. Yes, this does mean you need to protect this building with your life. However, you were already needing to do that because obviously, if you have the Errand Riders stored up to do a big summon of everything all at once, you now can't because the building's dead, for example. Gondor does have a few little tricks that can keep it alive, so does Belfalas, but we're mainly just talking about Gondor here as a whole. And yeah, these units fill nearly every gap in your basic tier roster by a terrifying amount. And you just don't have any drawbacks from having a Signal Fire in your roster. gives you free units. You're actually saving money by doing this. Sometimes saving more money than what a resource building will give you. Only sometimes. Only sometimes. But yeah, you also get Aragorn, which is icing on the cake. You get your king from the signal fire. This shows you how big and important this building is. But there is one that surpasses it. One that is more important. One whose units are more valuable to their faction. And one building you should build. Not just one of, but as many as possible because of what they can give you. Because of everything that's been added to them in 4.8. And I cannot believe I'm saying this. I really can't. And the grand prize goes to Dunland. The Wildman clan hut, the clan steading. That is the #1 recruitment building in the game. And I hate to say, I would have put this near the bottom if it weren't for this building right here. And how the Wildmen have been reconstructed with 4.8. Thanks to the Dunland Gaverstows, you can get your Dunlandings to do more damage against buildings, to steal more resources with every attack against a building, or just gain more experience. Which turns a cheap 150. That is as cheap as, well, not as cheap as Moria Goblins, but it's cheaper than nearly every other unit on this roster that we've invented. They're cheap as peasants. But unlike Rohan peasants, you don't have to purchase Forged Blades and then give them a damage upgrade. You can just upgrade them with torches. They have a passive ability that just gives you more money destroying enemy structures. You can give them bandit carriers, which is cool and all. But you can also give them heavy armor, but only if you build the Smelters of Angranost from your Dunland Gaverstow. Before, you had to get Wolfgar all the way up to level 10 to be able to do that. Now all you need are the Smelters of Angranost, and you can pay for your upgrades like a regular human being. Because before, it used to be you could, with Wolfgar, even turn some of your basic Dunlandings into Dunlanding Spearmen. You can see they look a little less feral and look a little more organised. But also, you know, this is your only spear unit for the beginning of the game, because without them, you can't really get your Urukai pikemen. Because, yeah, Isengard's roster is just weird. Honestly, these are your starting units, because otherwise, the only issue you can make at level 1 is the Great Siege Works Battering Ram, Warg Riders, and Urukai Hunters. You have 3 units. We're not including ladders. Oh, actually, yeah, you need... So you only have 3 units from your base. A siege unit, a cavalry unit, which is a bit expensive, I'll admit, for a early game Isengard. And then Urukai Hunters, which are also slightly more expensive, pseudo-elite, pseudo-heroic infantry. It's only once you spend another 1,000 and start getting your basic Urukai is when you can start getting some real work done with those troops. But what they've done with Dunland has honestly made these guys, these little boys, worth getting through the entire game. And I'm not joking when I say that. I've even watched people just spam these out, and it works. If you're working with another faction that can just support you in this grind of constant Dunland spam, get your heroes up, get them leveled up. Honestly, do it. Do this strategy. I am not joking with you. This is not a scam. This is not me trying to pander to what everything that's been going to just anything. Just do it. Because once you get March of the Clans from this, all clan settings on the map reach level 5. Which means, level 3, which means immediately faster build speed. But here's the real kicker. Clan settings will passively increase the damage of all Dunland units on the map by up to 30%. For 500 resources, you just say, you know what, I like these men of Dunland. I'm just going to keep making more Dunland settlements. Yes, it means I'm not making as much money. But let's see, I have, how many powers to give me money? Industry. Ruthless exploitation. Devastation. you can honestly abuse those free powers and sacrifice a few settlements to make clan settings, because once they reach level 3, you do get some more stuff out of it. You get some defenders for your yeah, you can see you've got some wildman axe throwers now protecting the clan steading. And yeah, this Gaverstow here has made the Wildman of Dunland an actual force in the game. Before it was just oh, okay, we got these early troops that can give us some more money, hooray! Now they're a troop you can just run for the entire game, and honestly, not feel ashamed for it either. Because they are good. They are really, really good. And then, obviously, when you get to the late game, you can get all these Orokai permanently level 5, full upgrades, yada yada yada, all that nonsense with the steel workers. We get it. We all love this. This is expensive to do. This is about 10 times cheaper to just build Wildman of Dunland. And it is honestly worth it. Even when you're thinking about your Orokai heroes, Lurs and Uglul, they need leveling up before they become real work fighters. And even Sharknoots and Wild Riders, that's always a nice little addition to have. Siege, I scoff at Siege. But yes, the cost reductions from the furnaces, that counts too when it comes to these discounts on your upgrades. And yeah, honestly, one of my favourite changes was what they've done with Dunland. It's not even a change, it's just an add-on. But it makes them just worth getting. And it's made playing Isengard worth playing again. Because for a time I said, I don't want to play Isengard, so I'm not going to touch Isengard. Now I don't want to play Isengard. Just most of the times. There are times I like playing Isengard. But yeah. This faction went from being, I'm not touching this, to I'll touch it, but I'm not going to enjoy it all the time. But yeah, Isengard does have some good things about it. I personally just don't like playing them. But disregarding that fact, disregarding my own bias, Wildmen are good. Wildmen are really, really good and should not be discredited because I just said I don't like them. Because they are still good. They're fun if you give them a chance. Some games you're not going to get them to work. See, that's when you go into your Orokai. If it happens too early, you're screwed. If it happens too late, you might screw yourself over as well. It's a weird one, but it is by far the best. Even compared to the Signal Fire, you cannot deny that the money these guys can make almost pays off what they are worth. And yes, the Signal Fire for Gondor saves you money. You need to actually actively protect that building. This building does protect itself by making these troops very, very quickly. Wolfgar, for example, can also just make them spawn faster, which is always a good little boon. And again, you can just get these across the entire map and just get more damage for all of your Wildmen. I have fallen in love with the Wildmen of Dunland. It feels weird. They could make a whole faction of Dunland and I'd love it. Okay, and that is it. I hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Farewell.